Hello board game brothers and sisters, I'm Adam Singer and welcome to another episode where I'll be letting you know if Kickstarter is launching this week. If you're new to the channel, we do this every week, so if you want to stay up to date with all the Kickstarter and GameFound campaigns that are coming down the line, stay tuned, and if you like what you see, consider subscribing and liking the channel because it really helps us grow. Before I get started, I do just want to mention that if you want to see further into the future, Alex over at Board Game Co. just released his video going over all the games that we know of that are launching for February. Games do shuffle around and a lot of things can change in the period of a month or even a week or even in a few days. So you'll definitely want to come back and check out over here as well to get the up-to-date information each week. But go ahead and check out his channel because he does a great job covering all these games and it'll give you a sneak peek of what's to come. He also offers a lot of great info after these campaigns start, and a lot of these campaigns he'll actually do dedicated videos, sometimes multiple videos for a single campaign, diving into the value proposition of these different games and if they make sense to back, and he does try to look at it from different perspectives, so it's really a great resource if you want to decide which campaigns are right for you. And I'll leave a link to his channel right up here. But before we get into the Kickstarters launching this week, I do like to go over some of the new discoveries and announcements that I just found out about in the last week. And the first one I want to cover is the newest announcement from Steamforged Games. They're actually going to be doing both a tabletop game as well as a RPG for Runescape, which is one of the biggest online video games that has ever been made. I think it's been out for over 20 years, and they're going to be pulling from that material over the entire history of the game. If you're familiar with the game, you'll see a lot of nods and references from across the years. There's not a whole lot of info on this one right now, but they do plan to launch it in 2022. And if you're not familiar with Steamforged Games, they also adapted a few other IPs to board games recently in the past, and that included Monster Hunter as well as Skyrim. And speaking of Skyrim, we do have another announcement, and this one is coming from Chip Theory Games. And probably the most notable board game is Too Many Bones, which a lot of people really do love. And it looks like this game will be incorporating some of those mechanisms from Too Many Bones. And this is a game that until recently was just a teaser, but they finally announced the actual title of it, and it's going to be The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era. And this is going to take place during the period of Elder Scrolls Online. And this is going to be a cooperative adventure where players are going to be choosing and developing their own character and exploring the world of Tamriel. And as they explore different regions, they're going to be drawing from different mission decks, completing main missions as well as side quests. And each region is also going to have its own overland deck that's going to change the type of monsters that you interact there. And you might have to change up your playstyle depending on what you're up against. And Chip Theory Games is known for their crazy good quality components, and you can see in this image here that it does have some similarities with some of the mats that we saw in Too Many Bones, and I'm basing this completely on this barely a quarter of a mat that I can see. This might be completely different from Too Many Bones, but that mat does look similar, and it is coming from the same publisher, so I won't be surprised if they do incorporate some of those mechanisms here. And next, Portal Games announced that they're going to be launching a Batman deduction game, and this is going to be based on their system from Detective, a modern crime board game, which is a game that gets a lot of love and a lot of very positive reviews. It's actually ranked in the top 200 over on Board Game Geek, which is a really incredible feat. And I think this is really an exciting one because it focuses more on the detective aspect of Batman, which is a big part of the comics, but is often overlooked in other media. And if you want more info on any of these campaigns, definitely go ahead and check out our Discord in the description below because I'll have channels made for each of these, and you can go ahead and find these links over there. And the last thing I wanted to cover is that Deep Rock Galactic is going to be converted into a board game as well, and this is based upon a video game with the same name. I'm not familiar with the game myself, but if this is one that you are interested in, there is going to be an early bird pledge that will get you some free content, so you can definitely go ahead and click that notify me at launch button so that you don't miss out on that in the future. And I'm just glazing over these right now because they're not launching this week, but I will cover them in more detail on the week of their actual launch. So if you like the sort of content and you want to stay up to date, definitely check out that subscribe button down below. And with all that said, let's check out the Kickstarters. And the first campaign we have launches on February 1st, and this one's called Dinosaur Exhibit. And this plays 1 to 6 players and takes about 15 to 25 minutes to play. And this one is a roll and write that also mixes in set collection and tile placement. And in this game, players are curators, each in charge of their own museum, and a Spinosaurus was discovered in the area. And the player that's able to earn the most curation points by the end of the game is going to be the one that earns the right to have the Spinosaurus in their museum. And players are going to be gaining curation points by rolling dice on their turn, and each die is going to represent a different tool that's going to match up with some of the tools on your sheet of paper. And then you're going to be able to draft one die, and then the other players are going to be able to draft from whichever dice remain. There are going to be different tools like maps, brushes, and hammers, and these are all going to be needed in order to curate different fossils and add them to your collection. And the way that that works is that you're going to be expanding your museum by coloring in different sections on your sheet based on the die that matches that icon. And as you shade in different areas, you're going to be trying to create different shapes, because if you match a shape with some of the fossils that are available to add to your exhibit, then you can take that tile and put it on your sheet of paper. That itself will earn you points, but there's also a set collection aspect as well, and if you're able to complete different sets, that's going to earn you additional points and potentially win you the game. You can also add pillars to upgrade the museum itself, and all these different sources of points will be added up to your total by the end of the game. And after a predetermined amount of rounds based on player count, the player with the most points at the end of the game wins the game. And the next campaign we have also launches on the 1st, and it's called Nightbreak. And I was going to tell you about this one myself, but I found someone else on YouTube that just did a way better job of it. They're also way better looking than me, and you should definitely subscribe to their channel. So let's see what they have to say. Also on the 19th, we have Nightbreak, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 30 to 50 minutes to play. And this is a medium weight competitive fantasy battle card game. And in this game, players are going to be choosing their unique faction's hero deck. Players will choose 3 cards from their entire deck that they want to start the game with, and then they're going to be shuffling up the rest as their draw deck. But then 6 cards are going to be removed permanently from the game. Each round, players automatically gain a blessing token that can be used to activate different powers or escape the battle undetected or pray for more blessings in the future. But players will also use their hero's abilities along with dice rolling to attack their opponents and try to inflict damage to win the game. As the battle progresses, you're going to temporarily retire any of your characters from battle once they've taken too much damage, and you'll draw a new hero from your deck. The opposing player gains a victory point anytime this happens. Each round, a card from the time deck is discarded, and once all those cards are used, the player with the most victory points wins the game. And the reason I already covered this one in the past is because it was supposed to launch a few months ago. I think it's going to be launching this week, but I reached out to the publisher and I didn't get confirmation on that. So if you want to check out this one, definitely check out their website. I'll leave a link to that in the description below, but I'm pretty sure it's launching this week. Also launching on the 1st, we have Monsters and the Things That Destroy Them, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes just 5 to 15 minutes to play, and this is a light party card game of drafting and hand management. But the way that this game starts is that each player is going to be drawing a card into their own personal discard pile, and I did mention this is a game of hand management, but you're also going to be managing your discard pile because your hand is limited to just 3 cards, but there are going to be some special abilities with the cards that allow you to expand your hand or manipulate your discard pile or even draw cards from your discard pile back into your hand. So even though you're limited to those 3 cards, your discard pile is kind of a limited way for you to expand your options. And there's 2 types of cards in the game. There's the monster cards that have a point value on them if you're able to keep them until the end of the game, and each card is unique and offers you a different special effect or passive ability, and you'll be able to chain that with some of the other cards as you draw them into your hand. And the second kind of card is a tactic card, and this one's going to be more focused on the ability, and you'll be able to hold it in your hand and activate it whenever it's convenient for you. But on the table, there'll be 4 of these cards face up for everyone to see, and on your turn you'll be able to draft one into your hand, activating its special ability, and hopefully chaining that with some of the other cards you have in your hand or your discard pile, and using all this to your advantage to try and score the highest points at the end of the game. At the end of your turn, you'll discard back to your hand limit of 3 unless you have any cards that modify your hand limit, otherwise you'll discard down to that number, and then you'll replenish the cards on the table, and it's the next player's turn. The game continues like this until the main deck has run out and every player has had an equal number of turns. And at this point, players choose 2 cards from their hand that they'll be able to score, or they can also choose a neutralizer card that will cancel out any other monsters that happen to meet a certain requirement. Since every monster is unique and you're aware of every card that the other players have drawn throughout the game, you have a lot of information. You can start to infer what you think other players might have in their hand, and you can prepare for that and hopefully eliminate those points. After players have revealed both their cards and resolved any neutralizers, then the player with the most points remaining wins the game. And this next campaign, launching on February 1st, is our Discord pick of the week, and it looks like a lot of fun. And this one is called Seas of Havoc, and this plays 1 to 5 players and takes about 45 to 75 minutes to play. And this is a deck building worker placement game of piracy. And this game plays over 2 phases. There's the high seas phase, and then there is the island phase. And the way that this game works is that players are each going to be captain of their own ship, and each ship will be very different from each other, especially as you develop it throughout the game. But you're also going to have a unique captain with an asymmetric ability. And at the start of each round, players are going to roll dice in order to randomly populate the board with different islands and rock formations that the players can visit, as well as different shipwrecks that the players can plunder for treasure. Players will have a main ship that navigates around on this board, interacting with the different locations and potentially engaging in battle with the other players. And depending on their ship, they're each going to have a unique starting deck of cards as well as unique upgrades to unlock throughout the game. And the first phase is known as the high sea phase, and this is the phase where players are going to be playing their cards and interacting with the board, moving around, attacking other players in order to earn infamy and resources. And across all the different cards, players will have a lot of different options in order to move their ship, but each card will have a specific way that the ship will be allowed to move, so there's going to be a lot of restriction with it as well. The thing that's really cool about this is that cards often have multiple options for you when moving your ship, especially after you upgrade them, so this is just one really interesting way that you can improve your options throughout the game and position yourself even better in the future. Some cards even grant you victory points, which are represented by these skulls, because skulls are always good when you're a pirate. And you can also unlock some special abilities if you have a flag matching the color at the bottom of the card. And to activate that ability, you would discard that flag, which I will get back to in a moment. Of course, you are a pirate, so you don't want to just be sailing around enjoying that fresh sea air. You also want to be firing cannons in the faces of your opponents and people you just don't like. So there are cards for that as well, and most of them have you firing from starboard or port. So this is important because it really matters the orientation of your ship on the board at the time that you activate these cards. And you might notice that these cards have some icons on them, and those represent the cost to play the card, because to fire your cannons, you're going to need some cannonballs. Players will be storing these on their player board, and you'll be discarding them anytime that you fire your cannons. Different attack cards can have different costs, and they can also have different ranges that they're able to attack as well. And if you're able to hit your opponent, then it'll earn you victory points, but it'll also earn them a damage card, which is worth negative victory points at the end of the game. But the fun doesn't stop there, because you can also find cards that mix both attack and movement together into a single card. There's also a ton of upgrade cards as well that will augment everything else that you do, and you'll definitely want to take advantage of those. And then once all players have had their turn, it moves on to the next phase of the game, which is the island phase. Instead of using your main ship for this portion of the game, each player also has 3 smaller skiff ships, and these are going to be used as workers, and you're going to be sending them out to different islands in order to perform different actions depending on the island that you visit. So players are going to want to visit these islands to best prepare themselves for the following rounds, and you'll be able to do things like replenish your cannonballs, upgrade your ship with up to 2 upgrades, or burn cards or add cards to your deck, or take that first player token, or you can send your ship to claim one of the 4 flags at the top of the board, which I had mentioned earlier, and you can discard these later in the game to activate a special ability of one of your cards. And the game continues like this, alternating between these 2 rounds until the damage deck runs out, and then at that point, players tally up their score, and the player with the most points wins the game. And this is the campaign that I'm most excited about and most likely to back this week. We'll see if I actually pull the trigger. I still have Dead Reckoning on the way, but honestly I think I might actually like this one better because it looks a lot less fiddly and a lot more streamlined, and the package that this one is offering is really compelling. And I really like the deck building in this and how a single card can offer a ton of different options. And the worker placement looks like a lot of fun as well, especially when you can get those flags, which can change the options that you have when you're using your cards. And the more friendly artwork and deluxe components I've seen so far are really going to make this pop on the table. And if you're at all interested in this one like I am, definitely click that notify button because this one will be offering an early bird, and that will be for a Sea Monster expansion that you'll get added to your pledge completely for free. That also sounds really cool. And the next campaign launching on February 1st is called I Guess This Is It. And this is a very emotional 2-player game that takes about 30 minutes to play. And this is the next game coming from Button Shot Games, which means that you can expect it all to fit in a wallet-sized case. And this game is a little bit different than their previous games because this one is actually a role-playing game. And the way that this works is that this whole game is about saying goodbye one final time to your lover or your friend, or a family member or your enemy. It's really up to the players to decide what kind of story that they want to create, but this whole card game is centered around you saying goodbye to each other. And the way that the game works is that you're going to be drawing different cards throughout the game. Each card has a word on it that's meant to inspire a memory, and the words could be different things like bond, fear, clash, joy, and the players are going to be taking those cards and putting them out on the table one by one, matching the icons around the perimeter of the cards with cards that are already placed out on the table. So you're going to be joining those with other words, and you're going to have to tell the story as you put those cards out, how the word on your card fits into the puzzle. Players are going to take turns doing this, putting out new words and coming up with new memories to tell their story, and at the end of the game, players are just going to be left with a few cards left in their hand, and these words represent the things that went unsaid. And because the things unsaid are so powerful, that little bit of context can completely change the way that the entire story was interpreted up to that point. And if players want to remain true to the role-playing nature of the game, players can keep those words to themselves to reflect on their own, or players can choose to reveal the words and expose the shocking truth. And launching on February 1st, we have Rogue Angels Legacy of the Burning Suns, and this plays 1 to 4 aspiring heroes and takes about 1 to 2 hours to play. And this is a cooperative sci-fi adventure where players are attempting to save the galaxy. The decisions that players make are going to determine what opportunities open or close up to them as the campaign progresses, and players will also be playing as asymmetrical characters with their own character arcs to explore. The game offers an adjustable difficulty and multiple paths to victory, and the way that it's played is players will be setting up the board based on the mission that they're attempting, and then you're going to be adding the characters, enemies, and points of interest that are associated with that mission. Each player will also have their own character sheet specific to the character that they're playing as that will outline the name of the character, as well as their starting special abilities and some spaces to upgrade special abilities as the game progresses. There's also going to be a focus track that players can spend in order to re-roll dice, and a shield track that can help defend against damage. And then these icons on the side represent permanent damage that's inflicted if you fail a mission. Players will also be building up their own personality track in 4 different characteristics that players will develop throughout the game, and that will open up different opportunities to that player. And my favorite part of this player board and my favorite part of this game, and the reason that this one is going to be my pick of the week, is this really cool action track at the bottom of the player board. And the way that this works is that players will be playing cards in order to perform their actions. Each card has a number on it, and that represents where it goes in your action track, and you can actually play cards with the same number, and they'll just go into the same spot on your action track. But what that represents is how long you have to wait until you get that card back into your hand so that you can play it again in the future. And the way that this works is that on your turn, you can spend one of your actions to rest, and that will move each of these cards over 1 space, and that moves it closer to getting back into your hand. At the end of each player's turn, they also get to rest for free, so there will always be at least 1 rest on each of your turns. I really like this mechanism because it's a really elegant way to keep track of which cards are in your hand and which ones have already been played, and it's just a really fun way for players to try and balance which cards that they play at which time, and try to get certain cards back into their hand so that they can use that at opportune moments. I think it just creates a lot of fun decisions and trade-offs that players are going to have to deal with as the game goes on. And that's not the only way it gets used, but I'll come back to that in a moment. And on a player's turn, they can perform up to 2 actions. They can either play 2 cards, or they can rest to move all their cards over 1 step, or they can choose to concentrate, which would charge their focus, which then can later be used to re-roll dice. And as I said, you'll always get a bonus rest action at the end of your turn, so your cards will always move over 1 space. But the real meat of the game comes in playing the different cards, because each card is going to have an associated action with it, and you can use those to move around the board, interact with different points of interest or items, or attack different enemies that are in your sight. You'll perform the action of that card immediately and then put the card into your action track where it will cool down until it will later come back into your hand. But another reason that this one is my pick of the week is because I really like the way that the enemies work in this game. They're going to react a little bit different to the players depending on the situation that they're in or the environment that they're in. And this is accomplished through these automated attack sheets, and there's a ton of these that are included in the game, which is going to offer a lot of variability. And these are also double-sided. And the way that this works is that you're going to match a row up with the appropriate enemy, and the sheet's going to outline the procedure that the enemy is going to follow when it is attacking. This sort of idea will definitely add a little bit of character to your enemies and make them feel a little bit more realistic rather than being really predictable and robotic. And the really neat thing about taking damage in this game is that you don't really have health. Instead, you're going to get a damage card that's put into your action track. And then whatever negative effect that card has associated with it is going to be affecting you the whole time that it's in your action track. So you're going to want to rest to try and get those out of your action track as quickly as possible. And then at that point, they get discarded and you don't have to worry about them anymore. I'm pretty good at spotting good design when I see it, and this one is really impressing me. Everything looks really elegant in the way that the cards flow, and the way that the damage is dealt, and the way that action track kind of ties everything together. This one also does have a few comments in here in the rating section with some really high praise, and there's also a few videos that I watched as well, and everyone there also seemed to really enjoy the game. So if you're interested in these types of games, I definitely recommend checking this one out and clicking that notify button. I have links in the description below, and I'm really excited to see what other people have to say as this one gets rolled out. And this one is offering a tabletop simulator version of the game that you can go ahead and try for yourself right now. And if you're looking for that link, I definitely recommend checking out our Discord, because we do provide links to the tabletop simulator games if they are available. And to find it, all you have to do is go to the channel for whatever game you're looking for and check out the pinned comment, and we have links to the BGG page, their website, tabletop simulator, or Tabletopia if that's available. And this is the best Discord in the world, so you should just probably join it anyway. And the next campaign, also launching on February 1st, is Selsia. And this is another game that I've covered in the past, and I did a really great job of it. So let's go ahead and see what I had to say. Also on November 2nd, we have Selsia. This plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 30 minutes per player to play. And this is a game where players are... I forgot that this one wasn't by me at all, and it was actually by Dr. Disrespect. Are starship captains in the Selsia solar system, and they're going to be commanding their asymmetric ships, each with their own special ability, competing to earn the most reputation in the solar system. And it's going to be up to each individual player to decide if they want that to be a good reputation or a bad one. And players are going to be doing this by completing different jobs and quests that gradually get harder the more that they complete. And in order to make those harder ones more attainable, players are also going to be upgrading their ship and crew to increase their attack and defense power, as well as upgrade their engine and battery power and their cargo space. The main mechanisms are action selection, area control, pickup and deliver, dice rolling, and rondel movement. Each turn, players are going to move their ship and perform an action. The board's broken up into 3 different sections. Visiting the innermost planets allows players to gather resources and hire crew members, but it also has the risk of space pirates. And then there are the outer planets where players can visit to find different job cards, and these jobs can be different things like bounty contracts or cargo delivery. And then there are the outsider planets, and these are going to provide stronger actions to the player, but these spaces will need to be unlocked by players throughout the game whenever they upgrade their spaceships. The most reputable player at the end of the game wins the game. And launching on February 1st, we have Trekking Through History, and this is the 3rd in the series. There's Trekking Through the National Park, Trekking Through the World, and now we have this one. And this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play. And in this game, players are time travelers traveling through different moments in time and reliving the historic events that occurred there. Players are going to be doing this over 3 days, and each round is going to represent one of those days. And players will be starting the round by choosing an itinerary, which is represented by this card down here. And players are going to be trying to gather different tokens in order to cover up different locations on that itinerary, because any victory points that are covered up are earned. However, some of these do require you to cover multiple spaces in order to earn the victory points in that row. And the way that players get tokens to add to their itinerary is by drafting cards from this shared pool. And each turn, players will be able to draft 1 card, and then they will take that card and take the associated tokens that come along with it. The catch here is that each card has a number associated with it, and this represents how many hours you need to spend in order to relive that event. Players only have so much time each day, so they're going to be moving their token along this clock track based on the number that's associated with that card. Players are going to want to watch how many hours they have left in the day and try to optimize the cards that they draft so that they are getting the ones that will get them the most victory points and maximize the amount of points that they can get in a single turn. But just to add another fun layer of complexity onto this game as well is that players will want to visit these locations in chronological order. It's not required, but you will get some extra bonus points if you're able to do so. So if you can do that while also gaining all the tokens you need, that is always something you'll want to consider in order to maximize your points. In addition to these different colored tokens, players can also gain time crystals, which will allow them to bend the rules and the space-time continuum on future turns, which will allow them a little bit more flexibility and allow them to gain victory points maybe just a little bit easier. The round ends once all players have run out of time, and then they earn those victory points, repeating this for 2 more rounds, and then the player with the most victory points at the end will win the game. And if this one does interest you, I definitely recommend checking out the video because it does a really great job of explaining the game. And if you want to find that video, go ahead and check out the Discord. I have a link in the description below. I have channels set up for every campaign that I know of that's launching in the future. If you go ahead and check out the channel for that campaign, you'll see all sorts of links to different content related to it, some of it that you can't even find anywhere else on the web. And the next campaign we have also launching on February 1st is not a board game, but instead an RPG, so I won't be spending quite as much time on this one, but this one's called You're Not a Wizard. And the whole premise here is that you've been accepted into the Wizard Academy's School of Magic, and it's your opportunity to learn everything there is to be a wizard. The only catch here is that you don't actually have any magical ability, and your acceptance there was a complete accident. Of course, you're not going to let this get you down, and you're still going to attend and do everything in your power to make the most of an awesome situation. So it's going to be up to you to bluff, trick, and scheme your way through the classes so that the teachers don't suspend you and you might even graduate. Most of the players will be playing as this character class, but there are some other classes as well, some of them that do have magical abilities and might want to help these other players. And this one does sound like it'll offer a lot of laughs, so if this is one that interests you, definitely go ahead and check it out. I have links in the description below and also on the Discord. I don't know why I'm pushing the Discord so hard in this episode, but it's a thing now, and it's awesome. Check it out. Things are about to get a whole lot more confusing with this video because I lost a bunch of audio for what I've already filmed, so now I have to refilm it. But then also at some point in this video, my battery dies and I have to let my laptop charge, so I kind of just stop filming and continue later. But that actually already happened, so the whole order of this is a lot of fun, and this is really fun. This is great. But we're going to get through it together, and the next game I have to talk about is called BONC. And this is going to be launching on February 1st, and this is a 2 to 7 player light party game that takes about 10 to 35 minutes to play. And this is a super easy game to teach because you're just going to deal out cards, and players are each going to have 5 health, and on their turn they just get to play one of their cards. And what you want to do is to try to match the card that the previous player played, because if you are able to do that, then you have successfully bonked them, and that costs them a life point. And the whole point of this game is to be the last person standing, so you want to try and get rid of all the other players. An interesting aspect of the way that these cards work is that the number of cards in the deck is equivalent to the number that's associated with the card. So there'll be 1 card that has a 1 on it, 2 cards that have a 2, 3 cards that have a 3, and so on and so forth. But there aren't just number cards, there's also different wild cards that have special abilities, and you can use these to protect yourself or attack the other players or for different advantages throughout the game. Little games like this are really great when you want to add something a little bit more to your party, or if you want to include younger gamers. The later rule set is very accessible to them. And the next campaign we have launches on February 2nd, and this one's called Fantasy Commander, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 30 to 90 minutes to play, and this is a fast-paced tabletop war game. And players are going to be using action points in order to perform their actions and try to take out the other players. This was actually designed as a 2-player duel game, but they expanded it to also support 4 players, but it will also feature a solo campaign. So if you're interested in some really nice high-detailed miniatures and a solo campaign or playing against some other players, this might be one for you to check out. And they do have a Tabletopia option if you want to try it for yourself first. And launching on February 1st, we also have Captain's Log, and this is a pirate-themed sandbox that plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 120 and 180 minutes to play. And the goal of this game is to become the most renowned captain in all of history. And the first person to reach a predetermined amount of victory points is going to be the player that achieves that and wins the game. And this game actually takes place back in the 15 to 1800s. And this game is considered a sandbox game because almost every part of it is modular and everything can be mixed up and reconfigured into a different form. It also offers a lot of options to the players so they can move through the game in almost any way they want. And players will be able to choose to start the game between 3 different ships. There is a fragile but agile ship, a strong and slow ship, or a more well-balanced ship that's a little bit safer if you don't want to take as many risks. But on a player's turn, they're going to be spending action points to do things like move across the board, complete different missions, explore for treasure, visit both legitimate markets as well as illegitimate black markets, and markets do respond to fluctuations in supply and demand, and players will also be able to form and break alliances, fight and board other ships, and there is also a lot of flexibility in how players can upgrade their ships. You'll be able to change the speed, the weapons, the capacity, and the crew, and all of these can completely change your ship from what you began with to something completely new. Another interesting aspect that I think makes this even extra sandboxy is that there is a whole weather mechanism, so players will have to contend with the weather and hopefully use it to their advantage as they deal with the tides and the winds that all come into play. So if you are interested in a sandboxy game with a pirate theme, this is definitely one worth checking out. Links in the description below. And now launching on February 2nd, we have Patria Libre, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play. And this is also a campaign that I've already covered in the past, and I'm sorry that this has happened so many times in a single episode, but some campaigns move their launch dates sometimes 2, 3, or even 4 times, or sometimes they even just get canceled and relaunched. So I do end up covering games multiple times, and historically I've always just refilmed those videos, but it's just happening way too much, and I do this all for free. So expect this to happen a lot more in the future. Forgive me, please. But I did a great job of covering in the past, so let's check out what I had to say. Launching on November 1st, we have Patria Libre, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play. And this is a game that focuses on the independence of Mexico, and players are going to be playing over 3 different eras, and they're going to play as one of 2 main factions. Either the insurgents, who want to separate from Spain, or the royalists, who want to prevent that from happening. There's also a 3rd military faction, and this type of unit can actually alternate between the 2 different sides. Players are going to be using a really neat action selection mechanism to try and get the upper hand against their opponent and win the game. Players are going to be using those actions to try and gain victory points, but also try to gain control over different regions of the map. And in order to perform those actions, they're going to be using double-sided order tokens, and those are going to be reused throughout the game. And the double-sided aspect of these order tokens is what makes the action selection so interesting in this game, because once you have them out in front of you, you can't flip them unless you want to use up an entire turn in order to flip some of your action tokens to the other side. So you're going to really want to make sure that the actions you want to use are the ones that you have face up at the start of your round. Players are going to be putting these order tokens out onto the board to perform different actions, but then they're going to be retrieving them at the end of the round to use them again in the following round. And some of the different actions that these order tokens provide are to deploy or move your infantry, build fortifications, gain coins, attack opponents in the same region, or gain popularity. And popularity is a really interesting resource because you'll be spending it throughout the game to move your popularity tokens up and down 3 different tracks in order to upgrade your abilities throughout the game in 3 different areas. Players can also purchase these circular cards here that you can see at the bottom of the screen, and those are going to allow players to change what their order token does when they deploy it out on the board. And the action of that card is used in place of whatever ability is on the token itself. So if you ever end up with an order token that you don't really want to use, you can change its action by applying one of these cards when you go to deploy it. And players can perform one action on their turn. They can either choose to activate an order token by putting it out on the board, or they can activate a card with the order token like I had just mentioned, or instead they can recover their deployed order tokens that are already placed out on the map. And of course, the last action they can perform is to flip any of their order tokens by placing the action that they want to use face up. As players progress through the 3 different eras, they're also going to be revealing event cards that relate to those different eras, and these are going to cause some game-changing effects for the players to contend with, but they can also reward VP to any players that are able to meet certain requirements of those cards during that round. And the game can be played in 4 different modes of play. You can either play 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2, or you can play a 3-player mode where 1 player is playing as that military faction, or you could play solo. The game also has a few different win conditions. You can either be the first to reach 30 victory points, or be 10 points ahead of all other players, or control at least 3 of the different provinces. And if neither of these are reached by the time that the final event card is revealed, then the player with the most victory points wins the game. And those are all the campaigns I have for you this week, but don't leave yet because we have a few awesome giveaways to announce, and the whole order of this video may not make sense. I'm not sure how it's going to splice together after all the editing. I've actually already edited part of it, but now I'm realizing there's stuff missing and I'm refilming. And there's free stuff. There's free stuff here. Let's forget about that. And let's take a look at this giveaway for Granja the Deluxe Master Set. And this is a game that's already been released, so I think you can have a lot of confidence backing this one if you've already played it. Or if you haven't played it, there is a lot of content out there already from different reviewers. And this is one that you could go out and find and try it yourself before backing. But this game is all about farming on your island in Spain. And players are going to be growing different crops and livestock and hiring different helping hands to help them make different goods that they're then going to sell at a market. And players are going to be competing for the best spaces in the market and trying to make as much money as possible to earn victory points in order to win the game. Something that's really interesting about this game is the way that these player boards are designed. You might notice that they look a little bit different than what you normally see in a board game, but the reason they are like this is because each area has a different spot for you to slot in different cards, but they're not really different cards because the way that this game works is that there's multi-use cards. These aren't just dual use, you can actually get 4 different uses out of these cards, which makes the decision points very interesting, and you'll actually be sliding these cards into the different areas of the board, covering up all the other parts of the card and only keeping revealed the one portion of the card that you are adding to your farm. Players will be able to add one of these to their farm each round, and it's going to grant you some more powers and abilities and resources as the game progresses, creating a little engine. And as you might have guessed, this is a Euro game, and the heart of this is through dice drafting. And at the start of one of the phases, you're going to be rolling all the dice, and then the dice are going to represent different actions, and you're going to be putting them in the different pools so that players can draft them on their turn. And I did mention that this game was already released, but this newer version has way better artwork and way nicer components. There will be a few small rules tweaks as well, because there will be a few modules that are going to be included that were never released before. And one of these modules will be designed by the original designers. Then they did also have other designers create different modules, some of them with some really big names like Stefan Feld. And I think this will add a lot of neat new ideas to the game. And this giveaway is going to be for a pledge for this new version of the game and all unlocked stretch goals. And to enter this giveaway, all you have to do is leave a comment down below with the hashtag Granja. I guess this is a bit of a skill testing question. Make sure you spell it right and that you don't put the space in it. So I guess spell it wrong, but spell it right. And feel free to leave a comment letting me know if you've ever been to Spain. Because I've never been to Spain, but I really like the music. And now let's fast forward to where my laptop died, and then I realized that I missed footage, and then later film stuff, and this stuff happened, and let's do it. So I guess I'm gonna have to make a bit of a cut here because the battery for my laptop actually completely died. For whatever reason, when I'm screen recording, the battery drains faster than it charges. My computer is actually a beast, and it's a brand new laptop. I don't know who does the QA on these things, but I guess they put in a video card that the laptop just can't keep up with. I decided to just take a nap while it fully charged because this is the 3rd time that I'm trying to film this. So let's go ahead and see the next giveaway, and that is for Sink or Swim. And this is a game about synchronized swimming, and the way players are trying to stay synchronized is that each round they're going to be playing some cards into a personal play area, and they want all those cards to fit into the same requirement. Each round players are going to be flipping a card that dictates the requirement that the players are all trying to fulfill. Then they're going to work together trading cards, giving cards away, or drawing from a shared pool to try and achieve that requirement. The game also uses an app to help the players along the way, and it also sets a timer because each round is going to be happening in a limited amount of time. Players put the cards face down into their own play area, and then they'll reveal them later to see if they are all synchronized. If they are, then they win the game. And this giveaway is going to be for the Sink or Swim Kickstarter Edition pledge, and to enter this one I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of leaving a comment down below, just head over to our Discord, and I have links to that in the description below, and check out the giveaways channel. And all you have to do to enter this giveaway is click the little emoji here to get automatically entered, and this will get automatically drawn at the end of the week, and it'll notify you if you are the winner. One thing to note is that this one is US only, and the current trend on the Discord is that if it's not available in your area, you can leave another fun emoji letting me know of your sadness. I'm sorry. But now let's go ahead and draw the winners for last week's giveaway. And the first giveaway we have to draw for is Collab. And to draw a winner, I use this fancy application here, and all these names down here are bonus entries from Patreon subscribers. If you like this sort of content and you want to help out the channel, definitely check that out. It's a great way to help me get a little bit more sustainable, but then it also gets you some bonus entries into these giveaways, and it's always nice to win free games. So let's go ahead and draw those comments and draw a winner. And the winner for Collab is Clint Cabrera. Congratulations, Clint. This is a pretty awesome pledge to win, and I hope you love it. And the next giveaway we had was for Skytier Horde. And to draw a winner, we're going to do the exact same thing. So let's go ahead and draw those comments and draw a winner. And the winner is Paul Beck. And for this one, I'd ask viewers to let us know if there's anything else that they hoard other than board games. And Paul says that his girlfriend tells him that he tends to hoard everything, though CDs and board games are the main ones. That just seems logical to me. I mean, you need board games and you need good music to play those board games too, so I don't see any problem here. Congratulations, Paul. Just email me at adam@shelfclutter.com and we'll get that pledge all sorted out. And those are all the campaigns I have for you this week. Hopefully there's something for you to look forward to. And if you found this content useful, definitely give it a like and subscribe because it helps other people find this channel and it really helps the channel grow as well. I have a few small changes that I'm planning to make over the coming weeks on the channel as well as the Discord server and the way that the giveaways are working, and I hope it's going to improve everything. So we're constantly growing here and I thank you for being a part of it. So until next time, keep that shelf cluttered and the table full. Well, I've never been to Spain, but I kinda like the music. They say the ladies are insane there, but they sure know how to use it. They don't abuse it, never gonna lose it, I can't refuse it. Well, I've never been to England, but I kinda like the Beatles. Headed to Las Vegas, only made it out to Needles. Can you feel it? Must be real, it feels so good. Well, I've never been to heaven, but I've been to Oklahoma. Well, they tell me I was born there, but I really don't remember. In Oklahoma, not Arizona, what does it matter? I ain't never been to Spain, but I sure do like the music. Say the ladies are insane there, man, they sure know how to use it. They don't abuse it, never gonna lose it, I can't refuse it. Sorry, but I would have got copyright striked.